can hear the sound of muffled gunfire mixed with far-off screams, but both are drowned out by his nervous, heavy breathing inside of the suit.
Bro, what is going on? All this commotion cannot be happening from some shadow spiders. Yo, I'm blown.
Later, in the void.
What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Savvy, and welcome back to The Savvy Show. And in today's episode, Dr. Bob has just dropped another SCP animation. Yo, I'm excited because this one looks a little juicy. This is SCP-538, Shadow Spiders. So the title alone is pretty sick. Shadow Spiders. I want to see what they're going to do with that. It could be either one or two things. It could be a really, really scary, creepy SCP or a queasy SCP. If you guys don't know what I mean by that, it's similar to like the man-eating parasite, you know, with the insects in the dude's brain. That one that I did on the channel a few weeks back, you know, something that'll give you like, you know, a queasy feeling inside, similar to like the vermin god. It might be something like that or something really scary. So I hope it'll be the best of both situations that I'm assuming this animation might, you know, deliver for us today. But either way, it's Dr. Bob. He's gonna knock this out of the park, and I'm ready to get started. But before we dive deep, if you guys do enjoy this reaction in the beginning, middle, and end of the video, just remember to stop by that like button and smash it for me. Just give it a quick 1-2 no biscuit for me. Yo, tell them Savvy sent ya. And also remember, smash the sub button, join the family. I make reactions like this daily for you guys, so you'll always get your dose of SCP heat. And I'm telling you guys, if you love my reaction style, you love SCP content, you'll be making a mistake if you don't sub to the channel. Yo, you heard it here first, man. I'm making a stop. Yo, I don't make too many stops anymore, so you better hop in while you can. And also remember to turn on post notifications so you do not miss an upload. So without all out the way, without any further ado, let's get this show started. Alrighty, SCP-538, Shadow Spiders. Let's get it.
An SCP Foundation doctor wearing a hazmat suit is escorted by 2 guards through the secure facility. They stop in front of a large, sealed door, and one of the guards scans his security card.
Okay.
There's an audible hiss as the door slides open. The doctor nervously looks to the guard, who motions him inside. They certainly won't be joining him.
Yeah, for real.
The doctor steps into the small airlock, and the door snaps shut. A complicated locking mechanism seals the door behind him. He's truly locked in.
Damn, all this for some spiders? Yo, this must be dummy.
The reverse process then begins on the locked door in front of him. It finishes, and the door opens, revealing a room with bright lights that briefly blind the doctor.
Bro.
As his eyes adjust, he can see that the entire room is white.
This must be
bathed
cap.
in an intense light.
All for
He
spiders?
steps out of the airlock and towards the center of the room, where his task awaits.
Oh.
He takes one slow step at a time, pausing for a moment after each before taking the next.
Okay, and right there, I'm going to pause and talk about something. Okay, so I'm basically going to assume with all of these lights is mainly to hold this SCP captive or to contain it some way so it won't, you know, go crazy. That's why it's so bright in this room. But we shall see.
The doctor wants to get this over with as quickly as possible, but he has to abide by the protocols, and this is how they dictate that one must walk in this containment chamber. As the doctor gets closer to the center, and his eyes further adjust to the bright light, he can finally see what this room contains.
Okay.
In the very middle of the room, directly under the lights, is a man. He's lying on a table and isn't moving at all, except for his slow, rhythmic breathing, which is assisted by the ventilator he's connected to. A feeding tube has been placed inside his nose, and numerous machines next to the man hum and beep as they measure his vital signs.
God damn.
The doctor continues to take one slow step after another, and eventually, after what feels like an eternity, he reaches the middle of the room.
Yo.
The lights above the man are angled to create large, dark shadows coming off of him. And now the doctor is finally close enough to make out what he was warned about in his briefings.
I swear, if a spider jumps out of nowhere, I'm gonna feel some type of way. Don't be playing with me, bro.
Even though the man is completely still, the shadows are moving. Scurrying on the edges of the man's shadow are what look to be spiders, and big ones too, roughly 3 inches across.
On his shadow,
The doctor can't
not
see
him.
any actual spiders on the man. Only the shadows of these massive arachnids are visible as they move back and forth along the man's shadow. The doctor is growing increasingly nervous.
Bro.
He can feel the sweat dripping down the inside of his hazmat suit, though he tries to tell himself it's just a result of the bright lights beating down on him.
Wait. Does he have no information about what this SCP is? Did these bodyguards just tell him to go to this room and not even tell you what you're going to expect? Bro, that's pretty messed up, just, you know, off the rip. But besides that, this is pretty interesting. The shadow spiders are on the shadow of this human, but it's on the human. I wonder if it's the case where you just can't see it, and if he touches where the shadow would be on the human, he might feel the spider, or he can't feel it whatsoever where the spider is on the human. If he touches the actual human, if he can't feel anything, that would be kind of creepy. That would be kind of creepy.
The doctor reaches the machines measuring the man's vital signs and jots down their readings, marking down that the man's medically induced coma appears stable. He's continually distracted from his work, though, by the movement of the spiders.
Oh my god.
One suddenly jumps from one part of the man's shadow to another, startling the doctor and causing him to jump back.
Jesus.
The spiders abruptly stop moving, and even though he can't see their eyes, he has the feeling that they are looking at him.
They definitely are.
The doctor is frozen with fear.
Screaming too loud,
back
B.
at the spiders. But after a moment, they go back to their previous behavior and start crawling along the edge of the comatose man's shadows once more. The doctor continues to go down his checklist and audibly gulps. He's reached the final item, the one labeled physical exam. Nervous sweat runs down his face into his eyes, and he wishes he wasn't wearing this hazmat suit so he could wipe it off. He knows he must get much closer to the man, and more importantly, his shadow, than he feels comfortable with.
Oh my goodness.
He has to physically take the man's pulse, though. They won't let him out of this room if he doesn't. He reaches out towards the man's hand, slowly and carefully. He can see the shadow of his hand getting dangerously close to the man's shadow, and the spiders. One of the spiders stops moving, as if it is watching and waiting for the doctor's shadow to get closer.
Oh my god.
It raises up on its hind legs, looking like it is ready to pounce. The doctor gets closer and closer to the man's hand, when out of nowhere, the room is rocked by an explosion. The doctor spins around, and on a monitor next to the airlock door, he can see a feed of the hallway outside.
What the heck?
The guards who had escorted him run down the hall as a red emergency light flashes.
What's going on
He
now?
turns back to the man on the table. The spider that was waiting for him lowers itself out of its attack
Oh,
mode
shit.
and goes back to scurrying along the shadow. The room is shaken by an even bigger explosion, and it suddenly goes dark. The power must have gone out from whatever is happening outside. He can hear the sound of muffled gunfire mixed with far-off screams, but both are drowned out by his nervous, heavy breathing inside of the suit.
Bro, what is going on? All this commotion cannot be happening from some shadow spiders. Yo, I'm blown.
The doctor drops to the ground and tries to crawl back to the door, but he has no idea which direction it is. He hits his head hard and hears a crack come down his mask. That must have been the table. The doctor turns and crawls the other direction, eventually finding the airlock door. He stands up and bangs and pulls on the door, but it won't move. He fumbles with his hazmat suit and finds the button for his emergency light. A chemical light comes on inside of his suit, casting his face in a sickly yellow light.
White
The light
light.
starts to flicker. Something must be malfunctioning.
Damn.
The light on one side of his protective mask goes out, leaving half of his face in darkness. But that's the least of his problems,
Shadow. Shadow time.
because all of his attention is now focused on the shadow moving across his face.
Over.
It's the shadow of a spider.
Does he feel it though?
His eyes go wide as the spider stops and stands up on its rear legs. Arachnophobia, the fear of spiders, and sciophobia, the fear of shadows, are some of the most common phobias.
All in
And
one.
today's SCP file is a terrifying and dangerous combination of both. I'm Dr.
Man,
Bob.
Dr. Bob be finding the SCPs that just make you feel, some type of way when you sleep at night, man. This, and I love Dr. Bob's taste, but I know what you up to, bro. I know what you up to.
And this is SCP-538, also known as the Shadow Spiders. SCP-538 is what appears to be a kind of living shadow, not dissimilar to SCP-017, though these shadows always take the form of an unknown species of spider.
Okay.
These anomalous arachnids seek out the shadows cast by other living objects, attaching themselves to the edge of the living creature's shadow in such a way that their own shadows aren't obscured.
I'm assuming they just can't feel it because every time a shadow spider's on a human shadow, they don't jump or do anything.
Once attached to a shadow, the spiders will appear to feed off of them. This allows them to rapidly grow in size, with adults measuring a total area of roughly 15 square centimeters.
Feed on blood?
Once they reach their full size, they will continue to feed, though this will only maintain their size. The feeding process seems to not impact the host in any way, and the spiders can remain on a shadow indefinitely.
Yeah.
While the spiders have been observed feeding on the shadows of inanimate objects when no living creatures are available, these don't appear to provide the spiders with whatever nutrients they require, and they will slowly atrophy and decrease in size.
Could be two things. The reason why they're not increasing in size when they try to, feast on an inanimate object is because it's inanimate. Maybe they need an actual living shadow, which I mean is like a human being shadow or something alive to feast. Maybe some kind of life energy. Or it could just be the size of the shadow. The human shadow is obviously bigger, so it could feed more compared to, a teapot. It's smaller, so you won't be able to feed that much. I think it's the first choice where it needs substance, something alive to gain fuel, but who knows?
It is only when they are connected to the shadow of a living organism that SCP-538 can thrive. SCP-538 are not locked to the shadow they are on, though. The spiders have shown the ability to move across areas to reach a new host.
Wow.
But they will decrease in size when not attached to a shadow,
Okay.
losing as much as 2 square centimeters of their size for every second that they aren't on a shadow.
Oh,
And
dang.
should they be stranded in the open without a shadow to feed on, they will decrease in size until they disappear completely, at which point that individual instance of SCP-538 is considered to be terminated.
Dang.
The spiders normally avoid this fate thanks to their extremely fast movement, though, and fully grown instances
Man, that
have
boy
a method of
moving.
moving up to 1 meter per second.
Jesus.
While
Parkour
SCP-538
over here.
instances are usually quite benign, seeming content to simply live on the shadow of their host,
Yeah.
they will attack if they are frightened, which is when the real danger presented by these anomalous
let's see.
arachnids comes to light.
What will happen?
If the spiders are agitated, usually from the result of a rapid movement by its host, the spider will bite the organism's shadow before attempting to flee. Once bitten, the unlucky individual will progress through 5 distinct stages, all of which take place over the course of roughly 1 hour. During the first, the subject will report pain in the area of their body
Damn.
that corresponds to the part of their shadow that
For
was
some, they
bitten.
feel pain.
No puncture wounds or other marks will be visible in this location.
Wow.
Minor psychological effects have been reported in this stage,
I'm excited about
mostly
do something.
consisting of an increase in irritability and the tendency for the bitten subject to lash out at those around them. The second
Boy,
stage
just
occurs 10 to 15 minutes after being bitten. The subject will begin sweating, despite reporting that they feel cold, while their skin will become red and warm to the touch. 25 to 30 minutes after the bite, the third stage will begin. At this point, the psychological effects become very noticeable, with the subject becoming violent and attempting to attack any person nearby. Their speech will be slurred, and they may show signs of impairment to their motor skills. The fourth stage begins at the 40 to 45 minute mark, and at this point, the subject's skin color will go from being red to a pale white as their core temperature drops 5 to 8 degrees Celsius.
Oh my god.
Their psychological state will alter once again, and they will go from being extremely aggressive to overly apologetic, blaming their previous behavior on the fact that they weren't feeling well and weren't acting like themselves. After offering their apologies, they will then request their leave from the area and attempt to retreat to a darkened area. The fifth and final stage happens 55 to 60 minutes after the bite, at which point the subject faces a grisly end to the entire ordeal. Their entire body will rapidly dissolve into a translucent liquid, while at the exact same time, their shadow will disintegrate into numerous smaller instances of SCP-538. The spider offspring measure just 4 centimeters across, and the new instances will immediately begin seeking out shadows of their own that they can attach to and feed off of.
Damn.
There is currently no known cure for being bitten by an SCP-538 instance, and even
Wow.
death will...
Hold up. That's just crazy. I wonder if the previous human that was turned into, the shadow spider, does he have any knowledge of him being human before? Or is he just completely that time of him being human is completely wiped off the face of the earth, and this is just a whole new entity? Because this is the first time I've ever seen SCP doing something to a human, turning them into an SCP. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at least the ones I've reacted to, obviously, so far. So yeah, this is really interesting.
not halt the process. Instead, should the subject expire while in the earlier stages of the condition, death will cause the final step to occur immediately. In a bit of good news, Only bites to the area of an individual's shadow that correspond to a spot of bare skin seem to cause these effects.
Okay.
Even thin materials like cotton clothing appear to be enough to prevent the process from
Hey,
starting.
thank God.
The SCP Foundation has multiple instances of SCP-538 in containment, and they are kept in a white 15 by 15 by 3 meter room that is accessible only via an airlock. 4 200-watt lights are focused on a table in the center of the room, where D-Class personnel in a medically induced coma is kept in a stable state in order to serve as a feeding source for the SCP-538 specimens.
On surface level, this SCP is pretty safe. I'm just being straight up, like, I don't think this should be anything higher than a safe class. It's easy to maintain, doesn't harm the host. It could live there for literally all eternity until, I guess, the human decays and then the shadow's gone itself. So I'm pretty sure it never said it couldn't stay on a dead man's shadow. So this, say like this dude dies from the coma, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon, the shadow will still be there of the corpse. So I mean, it's pretty safe. I'll be pretty blown if it's not.
No other sources of shade are allowed into the room, so that the D-Class serves as the only source of shadows. Any personnel that enter the room, whether to repair a light source or to check on the condition of the D-Class, are to wear sealed hazardous material suits equipped with oxygen tanks, and are advised that they must move slowly and deliberately in order to avoid agitating any instances of SCP-538.
Oh.
Initially,
precautions even if they get on you. That's pretty smart. Because they already know there could be a possibility that the shadow could be on you, and that's why they're moving slow throughout, the room itself.
Doctors sent to examine the D-Class personnel were allowed to enter the room alone. However, following the events of Incident I-538-1, that protocol has been changed. During the incident, an attack by the Chaos Insurgency caused disruption.
Guess who we just reacted to today? Yo, this... I don't know how I'm doing it, but like so far, the ones I'm reacting to is just lining up so perfectly with what I'm reacting to in the future. I love it. I love it. Now I'm not confused about who they are.
Has been changed. During the incident, an attack by the Chaos Insurgency caused disruptions to both the main and backup power sources to the part of the site where the SCP-538 containment cell is located. Just as a Foundation doctor was in the middle of an examination of the comatose D-Class.
Dang.
The power outage led to all lights in the containment cell shutting off, while at the same time sealing the airlock that provides the only means in or out of the room and trapping the doctor inside.
Such shitty time.
The power was not able to be restored to the containment cell for another 18 hours, at which point the doctor was finally removed from the cell. The doctor sobbed uncontrollably as he kept repeating that he could feel them crawling all over him.
You can actually feel him now? Oh, this whole reaction. I literally thought that you can't feel them. They did even react. Like the humans, at least the examples of the spiders on these human shadows, they didn't react like saying like, oh, I felt that. Like, what's crawling on me? And this dude didn't even react when he saw him crawling on his face. He just looked at him. He didn't like do, like, what? No, wait.
The doctor was required to attend mandatory psychological therapy for his newly developed arachnophobia, and was later reassigned. Following this incident, the examination protocol was updated, and health checkups of the D-Class personnel are now performed by a doctor who is accompanied in the cell by 2 security personnel, each of whom are equipped with 2 250-watt flashlights that can be used in the event of another disruption to the lights.
Nice.
If at any time a staff member
Dr. Bob, bro, watch out, dude.
They are to be immediately placed within SCP-538's containment cell
probably
as
Dr.
soon
Richard
as possible, as the failure to properly contain them could easily lead to a massive containment breach by SCP-538 entities. Bitten individuals will often attempt to hide the fact that they are bitten, so anyone who comes into contact with the shadow spiders must be carefully monitored for signs of any of the symptoms that follow a bite.
Damn, it's like that? They're moving like that? And how would they even know? I guess they could feel him now, but it would have been a lot easier if you would have just said, like, they can't feel the spiders until it actually bites you. That would make more sense, but, like, why would you hide the fact that you have a spider?
Hide the fact that they are bitten, so anyone who comes into contact with the shadow spiders must be carefully monitored for signs of any of the symptoms
Dang,
that follow.
I swear, bro, I don't have a spider on me.
The ease with which they could quickly spread and the huge threat they pose to humanity has led to SCP-538 being classified as Euclid. And while the Foundation hopes that they have been successfully contained,
let me hear this
remain.
again.
The ease with which they could quickly spread and the huge threat they pose to humanity has led to SCP-538 being classified as Euclid. And while the Foundation hopes that they have been successfully contained, we all must remain ever vigilant of movement on the edge of shadows. Should you spot something, don't take any chances. Your future non-liquefied body will thank you for it.
Yeah.
Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr.
Bob, bro.
Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single anomaly as we delve further and further
my
into
boy's
the
always
SCP
on
Foundation's
it.
classified archives.
That's my dope. Yo, okay. This was a great reaction. I got something to say about the Euclid class. Okay. I could understand it being that class because how fast it could spread. However, it just makes it seem like it's harmless because even if you do the precautions, like you be careful if you have a spider and you're aware that you have a spider, it's not like you don't know. I think it would be a lot more dangerous if you didn't know you have these spiders on you and then you just like, you know, running, jogging, and then you get a bite and then you have no idea what's going on. But they do know. Like, supposedly you do feel it crawling on you. So if that's the case, just go to the SCP Foundation or whatever, or like get help, or I'm sure they'll have procedures where they could contain this and you could be more mindful about how you're moving throughout the world. I just feel like it would have been a lot more dangerous if they didn't feel it. But now that they do feel it, I still find it hard to believe that it's still not as safe. I know there's a chance it could spread really fast and so easy it could spread, but like I guess I just differ to that. I differ from that opinion just because I don't think it will be spreading that fast if the patient knows that they do have a shadow spider. I'm assuming they would want to get that checked out. If they know the ramifications of moving a certain way, I'm sure they wouldn't want that fate of becoming what is on their body. So it's just hard for me to believe they're Euclid class, but it is. But so it's just my own opinion. I still think it should be safe, but let's hear what you guys have to think in the comment section below. And also, with that being said, remember to like the video. If you do enjoy the video and like the reaction, please remember to smash that like button. It'll mean the world, guys. And also smash the sub button as well too. If you made it this far to the end, I do not know why you're not subbed to the channel already. Get it done, man, and have fun with the fam. It's going to be a blast, bro. And also remember to turn on post notifications so you do not miss an upload. So with that all out the way, unfortunately, that concludes today's episode. However, I'll catch you guys on the next one. With